But we do begin tonight with the pending return of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Disney announcing today that the late night talk show will resume airing tomorrow night. As you might remember, the show was preempted indefinitely at that time last Wednesday after Kimmel made comments about the shooting of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk and the fallout from that. The move sparked a national debate about government interference and freedom of speech from supporters of the Trump administration and Kimmel. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti joins us now with more on this. Jonathan, very good to see you here. Can you talk a little bit about what led to this decision? I know so many people have been watching for what happens next here.
Yeah, Nancy, it was just a few days ago we were reporting that Disney was hopeful that the show would return. What transpired between then and now behind closed doors is not entirely known, but Disney, the parent company of ABC, releasing a statement. I want to read it in its entirety because it's illuminating. They say, quote, "We made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country." They go on to say it was a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached a decision to return the show on Tuesday. The decision to pull the show last week, inspired in part by comments that were made by FCC Chairman and Trump appointee Brendan Carr, who called that opening monologue last Monday offensive in the language used in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, then appearing to threaten broadcasters that didn't cut back on such language. The criticism that followed fell along and across the political spectrum. We're talking Republican Senator Rand Paul calling Carr's comments absolutely inappropriate. Ted Cruz describing Carr as sounding right out of a gangster movie, Goodfellas. Carr has since tried to reframe those comments earlier today, saying ultimately the suspension was motivated by money, by finances, and by ratings. At this point, it's unclear if the FCC and ABC have been in communication and what guidelines, if any, Jimmy Kimmel might have to follow when he returns to the theater behind me tomorrow.
There have been all kinds of interesting rhetoric that's come out of all of this, Jonathan. Now, before the news of Kimmel returning, more than 400 artists signed this open letter in support of Kimmel. And as you well know, there have been those organized protests against Disney outside of the company offices in California. You've seen play out also New York here. Is there a sense that these kinds of conversations and discussions about freedom of speech may continue even now?
I think they will continue. There was a rally here earlier today. It has since calmed down, but it has been fueled by the very comments made by President Trump himself last week, seeming to threaten pulling licensing from broadcasters that didn't air favorable comments for the administration. And we have heard from protesters accusing the Trump administration of attacking free speech. As one can imagine, though, all eyes will now be on Jimmy Kimmel tomorrow when he takes to the stage, truly addressing what unfolded last week for the first time, Nancy.
Yeah, a lot of people will be watching. Jonathan Vigliotti, thank you very much.